So welcome back. This is Carl Ford. I am at the IIT at their real-time communications event here with Chris Meyer, who is it Mayer or Meyer?
Mayor.
Mayer. And Chris, exactly what is your title, young man, so I don't get it wrong?
I'm Vice President of Systems Integration and Testing with Verizon.
And we've been talking a lot about the stuff you've got in the labs. Talk to me about where we are with LTE interoperability, both in the network and on the devices, and what you're seeing in the way of chipsets and that kind of stuff.
So, in the LTE space, in terms of eNode B base stations, we have Ericsson, we have ALU. They've been through the lab. They're being deployed. We've stated and are on trajectory to be in 175 LTE markets within the U.S. at the end of this year.
I think you were already at like 160, if I remember correctly.
Close.
You're on target.
We are very much on plan to have LTE everywhere. We have 3G by the end of 2013. So we certainly have built up a head of steam here, and we're moving forward very fast. We announced at CES in January of this year our LTE device lineup, including tablets and MiFi cards and handhelds, and recently announced the Motorola Droid Bionic, and was preceded by Thunderbolt and Charge and other devices. So I think we have a rich device lineup, and they are certainly tested with the network, and before we launch them, we evaluate the user experiences and make sure that this is going to be a good user experience for people who want to be on our 4G network.
And speaking of that user experience, you guys have been amazing in terms of the speeds that people have been watching. I heard somebody got 45 megabits download. I know you got 21 last night. And the question is this an early adopter experience? What's the long-term view as to, should I get in now when the bandwidth is so freely available? What happens in the long term?
Okay, well, I think it's partly an early adopter experience, simply because of the loading on our network. When you look at the traffic load on our 4G network, which has been in production less than a year now, as compared to a number of years on 3G. But we have been very consistent in setting expectations with regard to experiences up to 12 megabit per second downstream on the LTE network, and up to between 2 and 5 on the uplink. And I think certainly people who are utilizing that network for tablets and handheld devices are having that experience in some areas, as I had last evening here in metropolitan Chicago. I was getting in the speed test about 21 meg down, and I think people are very pleased with that. As the network becomes more fully loaded, we're obviously going to traffic engineer that network to ensure that what we've committed in our service offering is going to be the long-term experience that people have on our network.
Okay, so for those people who become those early adopters and then the rest of the world catches up to them, is there a price point where they can find those 21 megabit experiences again?
Well, I don't know necessarily that we frame it that way. I think the issue is, as we announced in July, with the move from unlimited wireless data pricing or unlimited plans, more correctly, to tiered pricing plans for people who want to be very heavy users of whatever application that happens to be across our LTE wireless network. We're going to have a plan available to them, and depending on what that is, the difference between 21 meg and 12 meg downstream on a wireless experience, I'm struggling a little bit to identify what that application is, which would be less rich at 12 meg than it would be at 21. As a cocktail party data point, it's nice to be able to say I experienced 21 meg last night, but in terms of being influential on the experience, I don't think we know that yet.
Okay, I think that's a fair analysis. What about things like M2M and those kind of services? Are they going to be kind of in a bundle mode? I know you have one specific customer or application that you're working on where it's actually kind of taking advantage of the LTE world. You want to talk about what you're doing with the broadcast industry?
So we have a couple of innovation centers around 4G. The LTE Innovation Center in Waltham, Massachusetts, and recently opened the Application Innovation Center in San Francisco. So one of the use cases we've talked about here at the conference is the notion of, for broadcast television and local television news marketing, if you will. Whereas currently news editors would have to deploy a satellite TV pickup truck, or a truck with a reporter and a camera person and a microwave shot back to the studio. Those are expensive assets that become scarce during the news cycle. So one of the things we've been working on with partners is the notion of, for high definition video cameras, equipping those with 4G radios, so we can get a high definition video clip and then use Verizon's LTE network, with the speed and the desirable latency to get it back into the studio for editing and post-processing and so forth. So that's one particular use case of something where what we offer with LTE could potentially be a game changer in the news business.
Excellent. I know you're also doing something in venture capital. You want to talk about what you're doing with the venture capital marketplace right now in M10?
Yeah, so to support the growth of the LTE ecosystem, we're certainly partnering with people who bring network solutions and application-based solutions, and good ideas come from organizations and companies of all sizes, and including the startups here. So we look at opportunities and say, is this a good idea? Is this something that enhances the value of what we offer to the LTE? And in situations where the answer to that is yes, and they need some capital infusion, we take a look at that, and we make some targeted investments utilizing our 4G venture fund for that.
Cool. So I want to thank you for your time, Chris.
My pleasure.